Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bryan Caprice, and I'm from Major League Trading. And today we are presenting a webinar for Nadex. Thank you for everybody for coming in today. I really appreciate the attendance. Time is one of those things that you can never get back again. So you obviously saw value in what we were going over today. This is a program that's very close to my heart, and I was very excited when I was asked to kind of share it with other people. It's something I've been working on and kind of crafting for about the last year. And our students have been trading it for about the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 months. But it's pretty exciting. It's something that a lot of people can do, and it opens up a lot of different opportunities. So with that being said, I'll just kind of jump into it. Let me give you a little bit of background just about myself so you guys understand kind of where I'm coming from. I've been trading since about 2001. So I've seen a lot of ups. I've seen a lot of downs. I started kind of right outside of college. I was actually 1 or 2 years out of college working at my first job. And back then, I had all the time in the world, and I thought I had the knowledge, but I didn't really have the resources to be trading stocks and options. And that's kind of where I started, and that's where most people tend to get into the markets is with stocks and options. Back then we didn't really, currencies wasn't big yet. There was no binary options. There was obviously no crypto, and even forex was just fledgling back at that point. But I went at it for a few years, never really making or losing a whole lot. I didn't have a lot of money to put in, and found options and started doing much better over there. And then I found foreign currencies and got into that market because I understood the power of leverage and, liquidity and things like that. And, learn the value of a stop loss very, very fast in that market. If you've ever been over there, you know what I'm talking about. And then after that, I became a financial advisor and learned about kind of the inside of the inner workings of the markets. I actually worked out of an office in New York City, right down the street from the NASDAQ, or from the New York Stock Exchange. And it was nice getting to talk to a lot of old floor traders and things about, what they really saw and what the common belief was. And there were things that I had already seen inside of the markets, but, it was nice that I had the opportunity to mentor people, even people that used to be old floor traders. And it was always great. They would come in and say, yeah, what'd you do for a living? I was a floor trader. I was like, well, what are you doing here then? Don't you know everything? And they used to always giggle and laugh and say the markets have changed so much. Everything that we did back then doesn't work now. So I need to learn how to do it now. So I was in the opportunity that I got to do that. Why I created this program, I am married. I have 7-year-old twin boys, and I actually have a little girl on the way due in May. So you can imagine with twin boys that are 7 years old, I don't really have enormous amounts of free time. I used to travel all over the place, and now I just trade and stay at home and mentor students. But what I found was that, in a perfect world, it'd be nice if I could sit here for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day and trade the markets. But what I found is that's not the reality for most people. I know myself, I was having a very difficult time doing it. Being a currency trader, I was part of that crew that, I first started, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to trade the London Open. And, it's hard. When I was young, I was able to do that. But for most people, when you're getting into trading, we have a great opportunity here with something like Nadex that, it gives so many perks and benefits. And I'll go over those in a second. But, most people don't have 8 to 10 hours a day to sit in front of a computer. And, there's real life outside of trading. I'm one of those people. I don't live to work. I work to live. And me trading and the way that I feel that people should handle the markets is just they should go in, figure out what they need to live the life they want, and get good at it, practice, risk small, and then take that money out and use it. So it's not a get risk quick scheme. And again, that's why I created this program, was to give people a starting place. So it's very exciting. So with that being said, if you've ever heard any of these presentations or any type of financial webinars before, you know that there has to be disclosure involved. So let me go through those real fast for you. Now, this first one is from Major League Trading. We want to make sure that we're very clear and very upfront, as well as I'll go through a Nadex one. But big things I want to, kind of draw to your attention, you've all seen this before, is that no representation is being made that the use of this strategy or any system or trading methodology will generate profits. I'm sure you've heard this next line before. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Now, you should never trade with money you can't afford to lose, and by that I mean don't use the milk money, don't use your car payment, don't use your mortgage, and no representation is being made that any account will or is likely to achieve profits or similar losses as discussed. Now, that's kind of ours. Nadex as well. I'm going to read theirs and be a little bit more thorough since this is their webinar. Trading on Nadex involves financial risk and may not be appropriate for all investors. Now, kind of what I just said before, if you can't afford to pay your rent, you should not be trading Nadex. The information presented in this is for information and educational purposes only and should not be considered an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any financial instrument on Nadex or elsewhere. Any trading decisions that you make are solely your responsibility. I don't want anybody writing and saying, well, Bryan told me to do this. No, it's entirely up to you. Your past performance, as mentioned before, is not necessarily indicative of future results, and Nadex instruments include forex, stock options, commodity futures, and economic events. And as you've seen now recently, if you've gotten the news and checked the emails, they also do Bitcoin as well. Now, Nadex binding options and spreads can be volatile, and investors risk losing their investment on any given transaction. Now, however, the limited risk nature of Nadex contracts ensures investors cannot lose more than the cost to enter the transaction. It's one of the biggest benefits to Nadex. I love it. Now, Nadex is subject to U.S. regulatory oversight by the CFTC, and again, I'll cover that later on. But that's something that you don't see else. You don't see that out there elsewhere. So it's something that I'm very happy to be associated with. Now, with that being said, let's dive into the agenda for what we're going to cover today. There's basically 6 main things that we'll cover. All right. Now, the first one is I want to go over who benefits from this type of trading. Okay. No system out there that exists is for 100% of the population, and anybody that tells you that it is just they're absolutely lying to you. Okay, there's no such thing as a perfect system. There's nothing that works 100% of the time. What you do is you have to take a system and make it yours. Okay, one big thing is a lot of people always say, well, how well did you do well with it? Well, it doesn't matter how well I do well with it because you're not me. You won't trade like me. You don't have the same risk tolerance as me. I highly doubt we have the same trading account size. Our environments are different. So you need to take the system and make it you. So I'll go over who benefits from this type of trading. We'll talk about what conditions can be traded. Now, again, the markets are a little bit funky right now. They're not really moving a whole lot. For anybody that looks at the currency realm, if you looked at the dollar yen today, from 8 till about 3, it moved a total of 10 points top to bottom, 10 pips. That's not a lot, particularly for January. I don't know if everybody's on deep freeze or what it is, but things are just not moving today. Oil today, oil missed majorly and moved 25 cents, which is a very, very small, move for a miss on oil like that. So I'll go over the different conditions. I'll give a brief recap of what is Nadex and why we use it and why I feel that it's really the perfect trading investment. I may have some futures traders on here or some forex or even some stock guys in here. If you guys are doing that and you're making money, great. Don't switch. Add this into what you're already doing. I've never heard anybody say that having an additional stream of income is a bad thing. Okay. So again, don't stop what you're doing if it's working. Just add this in. And if you're brand new to this, this is a great place to start. Okay. And I'll cover why. Now, after that, I'm going to kind of break into the 30-minute trader program that we have. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what a lunchtime trader is. Okay, that's kind of terminology that I use. It's no official term. It's not copyrighted. It's kind of a methodology of trading, and I just entitled it Lunchtime Trader. I'll cover what a news trader is. Again, that one you could probably try to figure that one out. And the last one is to review the overnight trend trader, and that's something that a lot of people are. I guess a lot of our students are really in love with. I do a lot of that type of trading myself, and I'll kind of walk you through it. Just know that I can't, in the time that we have today, I can't go over all 3 of these to the maximum extent like I would, but I'll do the best I can and answer, questions that pertain to what we're covering today. All right. Now, if you guys do have any questions, on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see a section. There's a bunch of kind of different sections that you can kind of peel off, and one of them says chat. You guys can ask questions in either one of those, and I'll do my best, or if I can't answer it, the Nadex representative that's online as well, they'll go ahead and take care of that question for you if I'm kind of in a point and rolling through. So like I said, anytime, you guys are more than welcome to kind of ask anything you want. As long as it pertains to the webinar, I will do my best to answer them. And if not me, the Nadex person will. All right. So with that being said, let's go over who this is for. And I mean, ideally, I hope this is for all of you that are in attendance today. And if it's not, I appreciate you coming. But like I said before, no strategy is meant for 100% of the population. So this is meant for people that are working a full-time job and can't log in during normal working hours. Ooh. Can you guys hear me again? Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate you guys typing that. I got a message that said I lost sound. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So this is meant for people who work a full-time job and can't log in during normal working hours. Now, for a lot of people, trading is something that they wished or they hope that they can do. Okay. I have a full-time job. I hate my boss. I'd love to trade the markets. The lifestyle seems amazing, but I just can't find any time. I can't take off to take classes. I mean, there are companies out there where you can spend $50,000 to, sit there for a week or 2 weeks and try and learn how to trade. And it doesn't guarantee that you're going to start making money after that. So trading is one of those things that does take some time. It's like anything else. Practice makes perfect. So what I did is in this program, this is for people that still have that full-time job, may not be able to log in from 8 to 5, but they have plenty of time at night, or they wake up early in the morning. Okay, if you're one of those type people, then again, this can work for you. All right, it's for people that want to trade at night before bed. Now, where I got the idea from this was from one of my mentors. I asked him, like, listen, I'm like, you're so good at trading, you teach a lot, like, when do you find time to trade? And he said, that's kind of the interesting thing about it. I only trade for about 30 minutes a day. I said, what? I was like, you're this good? Why aren't you just trading all day, hitting buttons and sitting there and have 12 different monitors? He goes, because I go out and do other things. I'm married. I'm a foodie. I like to go out. I like to do a lot of different things. So what he said was, I basically wake up in the morning and I spend about 15 minutes reviewing my positions from overnight. And again, before I go to bed, I do the same thing. So if you're the type of person that wants to trade at night, pay particular attention to the last section of today, okay? And the reason I'm going through this, guys, is so you understand you have to have a plan when you're going to trade, okay? This is trying to help give you guys that kind of plan. So if you're a nighttime person, then again, this is a type of mentality that I want you to kind of shift your brain into thinking like, listen, I can become a trader. I'm going to do this before I go to bed at night. Or if you're a futures trader, great. Stay being a futures trader. But what I want you to do is I want you to start looking at Nadex and start trying to place Nadex trades at night and use this mentality. All right. It's also for people that are new to the markets and scared of losing money, or vice versa. You're good in futures and stocks and options, but you're new to Nadex and you're worried about not understanding a product. Great. The 30-minute trader mentality is great for you. It's good if you have a small size account. Now, Nadex is wonderful. I'll cover this in a little bit. But you can actually start, fund accounts with as little as $250. Okay. It's for people that want to trade during lunch. Now, I mentioned before, I'm going to go over the lunch trader today, and we're going to talk about that. Now, again, think about it. Again, everybody thinks it sounds great. Think about your current schedule right now. Do you have 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes right now that you could take at lunch? Not everybody gets a lunch break these days, but some people have, a little bit more free time. If lunchtime trading is something you want to do, you have to start and set yourself on a goal to be able to start trading at lunch. The first step is make sure you have access to Nadex and have something that you can start looking for charting, okay? For people with a smartphone or tablet, I actually do a lot of trading with Nadex on my smartphone. Actually, my tablet as well. My kids see me with the tablet and they're, oh, Dad's trading again. I don't use just a computer, so it's kind of a nice little benefit, particularly if you're on the go. If you're a commuter, maybe you take a train in or maybe you're carpooling. You don't need to be sitting in front of a computer to be able to do this. That's one of the nice things about the analysis and the way that Nadex is set up. If this is from, I can't allow doing work out. Why is the whatever we have? Brian, good question. You guys can't see it. Brian says, if this is for working individuals, why are so many people logged in? Hey, it's one of those things. People will make time for things that they want to do. So maybe people have jobs. If anybody else besides me is on the East Coast, you know that we're snowed in and pretty much everybody's not working right now. My kids are home from school. They're at their mom's today. But it's one of those things. You make time for things that you want to do. We also do webinars at night too, just so you guys know. But at this point for me, my trading is done for the day. So it was a great time. With that being said, we'll jump through. What tablet and smartphones do you recommend? Sherry, I can't make any recommendations as far as smartphones and tablets. Obviously, get something new. Technology is very cheap these days, so it's not very hard to stay up to date for that one. So let's cover the different market conditions that a 30-minute trader can trade. So I've broken it down to keep this simple. If any of you have ever watched or logged into the Nadex site to look at the news, I do write articles. And one of the things that I mention in my articles quite frequently is the KISS mentality. You guys ever heard that before? Keep it simple, silly. That's actually keep it simple something else, but you know what I mean. Keep it simple, right? So in keeping it simple, there's 3 different kind of market conditions that we have to worry about. One of them is the trending market. If you look at the left-hand chart over here, this, for those of you that are new to charting, it basically is it's mapping price out during a specific time period. Doesn't matter if it's a 5-minute, a 30-minute, an hourly chart. As you can see, the price is steadily going down, 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 and it speeds up at the end. But overall, we would say that this isn't a downtrend. Okay, trend trading is very, very simple. I mean, think about it, guys. If you knew what you knew now, right? How many of you would have bought Bitcoin 5 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, right? What is it doing? All it's doing is trending up, right? It's hit a snag recently, right? I mean, it jumped to 20 and then now it's kind of stuck around 15. But if you just look at a chart, right, of a Bitcoin chart, it's been going up for a long time, okay? The dollar does this. All the currencies do this. Since, we got our new president, the market's been doing nothing but basically going up. It's been grinding up, but it's been basically trending up the entire time. It's very easy, okay? When the entire market goes up, guess what? You buy something, pretty much everything goes up, okay? Now, when the markets go down and trend down, it's a little bit harder to make money. A lot of people don't understand how to make money when the markets go down. 2008 is a great example. You talk about all the amount of wealth destruction that occurred during that time period. There was no such thing as wealth destruction. All it was wealth transfer. It went from the people that didn't know what they were doing to the people that did know what they were doing. So trending markets are things that you can either trade before you go to work or at night, okay? Remember I mentioned that overnight trader? You can do those at night as well. A lot of the currency trades that I trade, I'm taking kind of short-term to intermediate trending trades, okay? As I'm getting in something as it's moving, all right? Trending is a simple one to get. Now, sideways ranging markets. This is what I'm going to kind of cover today, and these are things that you see typically at lunchtime, and you'll see sometimes overnight. Now, why would you see them overnight? Well, there's not as many people trading overnight because people sleep, okay? Markets are closed. I mean, you're not day trading stocks, obviously, because the markets aren't even open. A lot of people have a very, very difficult time when markets aren't moving. Like today, as I mentioned earlier, the dollar yen basically moved in a 10 pip range. You're not making any money when it's only moving 10 pips. Now, the nice thing about Nadex is you have the ability, because they're options, to take advantage of time value, okay? Forex futures, stocks, they don't have that. Options do, and prior to Nadex options coming out, you didn't have that ability. So the 30-minute trader program is designed that you can potentially make money when the markets don't move at all. And those times would be at lunch or overnight, okay? Then the other one is news breakouts. Now, obviously, some people will say that's not a market condition, and I would disagree with you. I mean, there are trending markets where it goes up or down slow, right? There are sideways, and people will say there's 3 market directions, up, down, and sideways, but news breakout is a market condition. Now, what happens with news? If things can explode very, very fast, interest rate changed, they went up, and what happens? That price spikes and goes crazy, right? Like, think about it. Apple comes out with new iPhone, or Apple sells twice as many iPhones as they thought. What do you think Apple stock does? It jumps, it goes crazy, right? That is a market condition, okay? It's one of my favorite times to trade. And a lot of people ask us, how do I trade news, Brian? How do you do that? I love news. News is my favorite time actually to trade. I put statistics on my side a lot for that. It's a little riskier, obviously, because I don't know what's going to happen, but they're fun ways that you can trade it, all right? Now, news breakouts typically happen in the morning, but they can happen at lunch, and they can also happen overnight, okay? Remember that the markets don't just function from, 9 to 5, right? I mean, particularly for me in the currency realm, the markets are open 24 hours a day from Sunday night till Friday afternoon. By the way, Nadex is open Sunday night till Friday afternoon, just so you guys, if you guys didn't know that. So it gives you the ability to trade a lot of different things. I'll mention that, in a little bit, that Nadex does a lot of things, but one thing that I really, really like about it is the fact that I could trade foreign markets, okay? You could trade the DAX, you could trade the Japanese market. You don't have that ability to do everywhere, all right? I showed it 5 years ago. Yeah, not good. All right. So with that being said, what is Nadex and why are we using it? When I say we, I'm talking about Major League Trading. Obviously, Nadex is using their own products. Nadex lets you trade stock indices, forex, commodities, and economic events from a single account. Now, a lot of people don't take advantage of this. They come here and what they think is, oh, it's going to be like, I'm just going to trade indices. Well, great. If you're only trading the indices, you're really not doing yourself justice. Get into the forex market as well. Get into commodities. When I first started trading futures, what would I do? I would trade, basically the ES, NQ, maybe TF, but typically I stayed on, ES and NQ were the 2 that I stayed on. I kind of dabbled with oil a little bit. Why? You make a lot of money with it. You can, but you can also lose a lot of money, and things move quick over in that market. When I realized that you could trade commodities at Nadex, I was blown away. And a lot of people don't. I mean, I get in there and I trade soybeans, I trade copper, gold. I mean, you can trade all these things in there and with one account, you know? It used to be for me, I had to have a currencies account and I had to have a stock account if I wanted to trade, you know, ETFs. I had a futures account and I had lots of paperwork and it was very confusing. Nadex kind of solved that by having the access to do that all in one account. One of the biggest reasons I like them. The absolute biggest is that Nadex is a US CFTC-regulated exchange. You know, it used to be that binary options had a bad name, and some people still badmouth them. You know why? It's because these foreign companies that are just total shams. But guess what? Nadex is US CFTC regulated, guys. It's an exchange. Having that type of regulation is you know, it's a huge, it's amazing. Okay, that's nobody else has that out there. So take advantage of the fact that it is a regulated exchange. Now, Nadex gets its money from exchange fees, not from taking positions. A lot of people are worried, like, hey, wait a second, are they going to run my stops? Are they going to trade against me, like in forex? No, they don't engage in any trading. Okay, they're not a buyer or seller in any transaction. They have market makers that do that. Okay, they're just an exchange, similar to just say like the CME. Okay, they make their money from the exchange fees, not from trading against people. Now, with Nadex binaries, you know your maximum profit and loss before you enter a trade, and you get better protection than a stop loss. Now, a lot of people are like, well, Bryan, a stop loss guarantees that I'm out. No, stop loss doesn't guarantee anything. Okay, I always make sure that I cover this because I'm very big on protecting people from risk. Okay, you can say, I want to place a trade, right, in forex or say futures, right, and I'm going to set a stop loss so I lose X number of dollars, say 50 bucks. Well, a stop loss is not actually an order type, it's a trigger. And what it does is it triggers a market order that says, get me out of the market right now. It doesn't say, and it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get out at your loss. If price is collapsing, right, it says, get me out now. If price is much lower than where your stop loss was, you can actually take a bigger loss than what you thought. Well, guess what? With Nadex binary options, you cannot. You know what your maximum profit and your maximum loss going into it, which is one of the biggest things that I love, particularly being a news trader, okay? So it's better protection than a stop loss. So if anybody out there is worried about, you know, losing money, this is one of the biggest reasons why you should be trading Nadex. Now, as I mentioned before, you can open up an account with $250, and it makes it affordable for almost anyone to start trading. Okay, it's a very simple process, and I got to say, it was a pleasure when I funded my first Nadex account. How simple it was. I mean, I've gone, you know, I've traded a number of different things, and I was very pleased, and it's one of the things that I'm very happy to be able to tell people, hey, listen, if this is where you're trading first, it's a great first experience for new traders. All right. So let's talk about the sideways trader, because that's why you're here. Okay, this lunchtime trader. Now, before I break into it, if I have to say this 100 times to get it in your head, this type of trading, the biggest thing you have to watch out for, like the biggest pothole, is news. Because what happens with news? Price can go crazy. It can skyrocket up or it can skyrocket down. And if I'm placing a position and I'm hopeful for a sideways market, news is the one thing that I don't want to see. Now, typically sideways trading is best suited for lunchtime trading or overnight. Now, why would I say lunchtime or overnight? Well, one, and again, I know this from working in New York, not a lot of market moves happen during the lunch hour. Now, there's no set hour that it can happen. Sometimes the market will kind of go flat at 11:30. Sometimes it'll be 12. Sometimes it'll be 12:30. Some days it won't happen at all. But typically, you will see it during the, quote, lunchtime hours in New York, okay? Overnight is the same thing. Sometimes there will be a lot of volatility overnight because we'll have foreign news releases. Sometimes nothing's going on, okay? Typically, when nothing is going on, that's when we're expecting the markets to flatline. And that's when you can use this lunchtime trader mentality. Now, what do you need to do it? You don't need 100 different, you know, computer screens and 12 different trading computers. Really, any PC will work, smartphone or tablet, as I mentioned before. So it's not even like you need anything crazy to be able to do this, okay? Now, this is where the strategy came from. These things that I'm putting together, I'm not the original creator of these. I took some of my education from my old options background, because I learned to trade options a long time ago, and I carried them forward into Nadex because I saw a bigger benefit. Now, this is what's called a long call butterfly. Now, let's see, we have a lot of people on this webinar. I'm sure I'm going to lose probably half of you in this section, because options can be, you know, when you're talking about different option strategies, they get very complicated. Don't worry about it. There's no quiz at the end, and I'm going to make this a heck of a lot simpler for you. Now, a butterfly spread is a limited risk, non-directional options trading strategy. When I say non-directional, what we want is we want price not to move. I'm not picking up, I'm not picking down. I really want it not to move whatsoever, okay? It's meant for low volatility situations. Now, what you're doing is you may see this terminology, the ITM, ATM, OTM, that means in the money, at the money, or out of the money. One meaning that there's residual, or there's actual profit in it. One that it means it's at a profit point, and one means it's not quite there yet is the easiest way that I can explain that. And what you do to build a butterfly is you buy one that's already in the money, you're selling two that are at the money, so you're taking in money for selling those two, and then you're buying one on the other side for protection. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, you guys can see it kind of creates a pyramid, right? A triangle pointing straight up in the air, and maximum profit occurs at $40. So in this case, you would have sold two at the money calls at $40. Now, if price goes above 50, we're losing money. If price, really it's 45 and 35 because that covers the two sides. If price moves too much, you start to lose money, as you can see that. And again, because it's options, you know your maximum risk, you're capped out at $400 loss versus a $600 gain, okay? Very simple strategy. A lot of people use this. It's a very beginner strategy in options. The problem is you got to be like a sniper, right? You got to pick the exact thing or you start losing money very quickly. So again, imagine, saying that, if Apple's at, I'm just going to pick a number, say Apple was at $150, right? And they're going to, the iPhone release comes out. That thing is not going to stay at $150. I don't care what the news, if it comes out, it's going to jump, right? So again, news is not when you want to use a long call butterfly, all right? So what people did is they said, okay, I don't want to be this exact. I'm willing to give up a little bit of my profit to be, have a little bit more room, Instead of a sniper, I want to have a shotgun here or a grenade, right? So what they did is they created something called an iron condor, okay? Kind of a similar risk graph, but instead of a point, it has a flat top, but it widens, okay? You see there's a bigger differential here. Now again, an iron condor is also a limited risk, non-directional trading strategy used for low movement in price, okay? Again, low volatility situations. If this thing jumps all over the place, not a good thing to be in, right? Now again, you are capped with your maximum loss. So again, it's limited risk, meaning it's not unlimited. You know your maximum risk going in. But if you can see on the left-hand side, this one's a little bit more complicated, right? Remember, there's no such thing in here. There's no quiz at the end of this one, right? But you're selling an out of the money, you're buying an out of the money lower for protection. And then you're selling a call on the top side. So now we're doing puts and calls, not just one or the other. We're doing both this time. And we're selling some in, some out. Again, this is where people get really, really confused with it, right? But what I want you to do is focus on the risk graph. So what I did was, because we're just dealing with calls, because it's just Nadex, because there's no puts, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of combine these two, all right? And what we did is we combined them into what we call at Major League Trading a Nadex butterfly, okay? The risk graph is kind of similar, but what it does is it has the same risk curve as the Iron Condor with kind of that flat, wider top, but it uses calls just like, the butterfly spread. Now, what you're doing here is you're basically selling a strike above where the underlying price is. So let's say right now price is at 24.42, okay? What you're doing is you're selling the 24.44 strike, okay? Now you're selling, remember, you're selling above, which means that one is what? Yeah, okay. I was waiting for questions and people are asking there. And same thing on the bottom. We're buying a strike that's below the price. So if we're buying below and selling above, they're both actually in the money, okay? Now, what we want to do, just like the other two, the regular butterfly and the Iron Condor, is we want price to stay within that range. Now, in this case, in this example, we want price, excuse me, we want price to stay between 24.40 and 24.44.01. Now, bonus points, why did I have 24.44.01? Remember, Nadex is above the strike price, okay? So you need to have that 0.01 in there to be above, not equal, all right? So as long as price stays in there, you make your maximum results. I like these because it's not that kind of point at the top. It's consistent profit across the board. You know what you're going to lose going right into it if you're going to lose. You know what you're going to win if you're going to win, and it gives you a decent range. Now, I'm sure I'll get a couple questions about this. Give me 1 second. Let me scroll through here. I'm using multiple monitors, so I want to make sure that I'm not missing any of these questions. Forex. Yep. Okay. So question, do you buy the same amount of contracts on both sides? Yes, you do. You always want to keep it simple. It's, there's broken wing butterflies and things like that over in the options realm. You know, you just keep this simple, one for one on both sides. All right. All right. So didn't get any questions. The computer is not smoking. I think we're good on this one. All right. So that's what a Nadex butterfly is. All right. Now let me show you how we're going to use this. Could be the compass with the $50. Kenji, yes, I believe so. If I'm understanding your question correctly. All right. So here's the same thing on a chart. All right. Remember, we talked before. If you look at this last one, remember I used the 2440 and the 2444? Well, here's it on a chart, okay? Now, I have a gray box, and that gray box maps out the time from 11:45, because remember, I said it's not 11 every day, it's not 11:30, it's not 12, it's not 12:30. It will be different times each day. That box is actually labeled out from 11:45 in the morning till 2:15 in the afternoon. So again, slow-moving day. But that box encompasses that range that we just talked about, the 2440, the 2444. So what could we do? We could sell the strike above, we could buy the strike below. Now, when you're doing this, what you're going to do typically, and what you're going to do is you're going to look for at least a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio. Now, don't care who it is, I don't care how smart this person is, a risk to reward ratio is the most important thing that you're looking for in your trading. If you're constantly risking 1 to make 0.5, you're going to lose your money. That's just how it is. You constantly want to be doing it the other way, right? Risking 1 to make 2, risking 1 to make 3, okay? In this case, in this strategy, you want to have at least a 1-to-1, and there are ways to get this better than 1 to 2, sometimes even 1 to 3, depending on what the strikes are. But at a minimum, it has to be 1-to-1. So you're risking 50 to make 50. If you can risk 25 to make 50, even better. If you can risk 0 to make 50, even better. Now, what you're looking for is declining volume as well. Now, remember I said before, it's meant for low volatility time periods. Typically, when there's volume leaving the market, it's going into a low volatility period. And I say typical because, again, there's no such thing as a guarantee in the market. You can never say it's going to happen every single day. There's nothing like that with trading. And please don't think that there ever is. Declining volume is typically a sign, though, that our volatility is going down. And again, make sure there's no upcoming news, okay? This window would not have been, there if, say, at 2 o'clock the FOMC was speaking, right? Because that's a big news release. The market was going to do some crazy things before that, with positioning themselves, or even with oil. If there was an oil release, things are going to move, right? So again, you got to make sure all these criteria are met. Now, here are the rules. I just kind of give you a little bit more on this one. Again, I'm trying to unfold it a little bit without getting too crazy on you. As you can see, this is a time decay based strategy. If you look at the bottom of this chart on the right-hand side, okay, you see the blue on the bottom? That's the volume. I drew those red lines in there to show that the volume is decreasing and the volume is picking up. It just happens to coincide with the gray box. So you guys can kind of get an idea. I mean, you can look all morning from 9:30, it starts going down, but at 11, there's another spike. 11:15, there's another spike. And then after that, it kind of flatlines. That flatlining in there is what you're looking for. Okay, that's kind of the sweet spot in this type of trading, is when all of a sudden it's like, okay, that's it. Boom, the specials are there. Go. Kenji, yes, you can trade this with a $250 account. So in this case, you're selling for 75, buying for 25. That's basically what you're, the target prices of what you're trying to get on both sides. It'll make it a little bit easier when we go to the next slide. But I just want you guys to be able to see what you're looking for so you guys can recognize this setup on your own. All right. Let me see. Is there any other questions? No. Okay, good. I'll go to the next slide. All right. So here, the guidelines for using this strategy is typically it's best used with the 20-minute binaries. I don't know how many of you are currently looking or trading the 20-minute binaries, but they're really, really good on the indices. You can also use 2-hour, but 2-hour you got to be a little bit more careful because you're kind of spreading them out. You're taking on obviously more time, more risk when you want things not to move. I do not recommend using this on the 5-minute the 5-minute currency binaries. It's just a little bit too fast. The strikes are not wide enough because you have to have room. So you want to make sure you get into these things. All right. So in this case, if you're buying the one for 76, right, you have $76 worth of risk, but you have $25 to gain. On the other side, if you're selling on the left, you see the circle around the 23.25. We're selling for 23.25, so we have again $75 risk. Now people say, Brian, that's a lot of risk. Yeah, it looks like that, but when they're combined together, what I want you to do is focus on this. Is it possible for price to be both above and below those strikes at the same time? The answer is no, it can't be. So your risk, although it says it's 25 on a single contract, when combined together, you don't actually have that full amount of risk in there, all right? Because there's no way that they can both be negative, all right? But can they both be positive? Yes, okay? That's kind of where the beauty of this is. In this case, this is pretty close to 25 and 25 on both sides. Like I said before, get as close to 50-50 risk as you can. There are kind of advanced ways to get out of this, but I just wanted to show you kind of, again, what it looks like as far as the guidelines go. So I'm going to go back a few slides again, I want to kind of repeat this to make sure that you guys are keeping this ingrained in. Remember, things that we're looking for: 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio, and I hope you guys are writing these down. People are already asking, how do I get the better risk to reward? You got to have declining volume, okay? I recommend drawing a box like this, kind of setting it. I'll show you what an actual kind of trade looks like in a second, of how, not going backwards, but actually setting it up. And then again, no news. Okay, here's an example of a kind of one of the trades that I took in a live account. Now, in this case, I kind of tweaked the formula slightly, okay? You'll notice on the left-hand side, now here's the chart, right? See the green bar, look at the very, very bottom of the chart. See all those blue bars? I kind of put a green bar over kind of the box. You see how it kind of flatlines there? It was higher before it, then it's flatlined, and then it kind of pops up again, and then there's the major spike at the end of the day. I was really looking to find something good with inside of that time period. Now, I didn't actually take this trade until the very, very, very end of that box. I was waiting for price to kind of go back up again, all right? I almost got into a little bit early, but I waited. Now, in this case, and this is why it is nice that, again, if you're going to be there and trade for 20, 30 minutes, it's nice to sit there and watch it for 20, 30 minutes, and that's what I did in this case. So I actually sold 2 contracts. Somebody asked earlier, are you selling one and buying one? In this case, I actually sold 2 and I bought 1. And why did I sell 2? Because I need to create that $25 on the top side, and I didn't get it with the amount of time left. What do I mean by that? It's a 20-minute binary. I placed this trade at 12:16, and it ended at 12:20. So I was running out of time, so I wasn't able to get the top side. So I ended up taking 2 positions. Now, in all fairness, by me taking those 2 positions, I took on more risk, okay? You have to make your own determination. This is not something I would do if there was 20 minutes to go, I would not have done this. But based off the scenario, I ended up selling 2 and buying 1. In this case, it worked out for me, okay? Has it not worked out when I've done that in the past? Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It's gone against me sometimes, but in this case, again, it worked out. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see the payouts of 100, 100, and 100. It was 51.50 in profit. So again, risk was higher. I took it because there was 4 minutes left in this trade. Again, you have to make your own determinations, but I was trying to meet my requirements of being 25 on the top, profit potential 25 on the bottom side. I was willing to take the greater risk in this situation, but I had to wait. Okay, I waited multiple times. This is I believe this is a 5-minute chart. So I had to wait about 45 minutes for this trade to actually unfold. And I sat there and I watched it for 45 minutes until it finally met my criteria. And as soon as it met my criteria, I didn't hesitate. I got in there and I placed the trade. If you hesitate with this strategy, you will lose as well. It's kind of one of those things. If you have to check the box and say A, B, and C is done, enter the trade, okay? If you wait and wait and wait and wait and the time is ticking away, you're going to start losing out on the trade, okay? Here's another one. Now, this one I did not break the rules I just gave you guys. You can see this one. This is one that I actually got the screenshot ahead of time. Price had dropped down. I was able to place it, and this time I got 30 on the top side, which is nice. Whenever you can get 30 instead of 25, that's even better. But I got 30 on the top side and the 75 on the bottom. So I like this one actually even more so than what the rules are. But same thing. This was purely a 20-minute one. I got in as soon as the strike printed and was able to kind of go out of this one with 54.25 in profit. Now, again, does it meet the requirement? Are the markets moving sideways? Yes. Okay, I drew that box. I knew the markets were going to go sideways. I looked down at the volume. The volume is down. What's my next step? I double check to make sure that there's no news releases or anything crazy that's going to happen within the next I'd say 2 to 3 hours. Typically, if you're going to trade these during lunch, what I would do is I would avoid anything where there's news in the afternoon. And the news that you're typically going to see in the afternoon is FOMC notes or the president speaking. Okay, you'll see those at 2:15. I typically will not trade a news trade, or I will not trade a lunchtime trade if one of those things is happening at 2 o'clock, because you never know when things are going to go early. But in this case, again, 30, 75, able to get the 100 payout on both sides. 54 profit is what I was able to take on this one. And again, in 20 minutes. Do this once or twice a day. Again, it starts to add up. Had I lost on this one, I would have lost $46. Okay. Is that the end of the world? No. Okay. That's just taking a standard 1-to-1, letting it go till expiration. Okay. You can always enter these early. Or I'm sorry, you can exit them early. That's another way to do it. But understand, if there's still some time value in there, you will not kind of reap the full profit. But you can close them down anytime you want. You just click on the strike that you're in, and it will reverse the position for you. Okay. Now, here's the one I was talking about that I said I was going to kind of set up in more of like a live fashion. And this was unfolding in front of me. Now, this is actually my favorite example. And it's one of those things that I told you before. I think 5 minutes are a little bit too fast for this strategy. And I always tell people, do not use them in the 5-minute currencies. I like them in the 20 minutes. I like them in the 2 hours. I do sometimes put them on overnight. And I was experimenting using them weekly. You can do them weekly, but there's a lot more things that can happen. This one was a weekly trade when I was testing the system. Now, how many of you out there right now currently trade the Japanese market? Probably none of you, right? I didn't trade it either until I found this trade, and now I actively look at it. So what I noticed was, and in fact, this is actually, I should probably start with this. I logged onto my Nadex platform, and you guys ever seen the pop-up where they give you the news and they typically are telling you that the strikes are rolling over? I got this message that they're the Japanese holiday schedule. And I'm looking at this going, okay, it's Monday night. The markets are closed on Friday. Basically, there's only 3 trading days left on this weekly. And I said, I never even looked at this before. Let me go check out this Japan 225 contracts. And when I pulled the chart up, again, thanks to Nadex, I had no idea it was a Japanese holiday. This is what I saw, okay? This is an hourly chart. And basically, for months, this thing had been going sideways. And I'm like, wait a second, this meets all my criteria. Yes, it's a weekly trade. And what I had to start doing was saying, okay, why should I not take this trade? It's meeting all my criteria minus the time. But there is a holiday. There's already 1 day gone. There's only 3 days to go. And there's a wide, I can create a pretty wide zone here with strikes, right? So what I did was, this is the actual spread. And what I did was, if you look at the chart at the bottom, the red lines are what happened in the past. The yellow line is when I took the position, okay? I was able to get a 200-point range. And if you see this is that hourly chart. I mean, it had been there for days and it had not moved. There's only 3 days left. And again, we have a holiday coming up. So I was looking at this going, I cannot find a reason not to take this. And I talked to my partner at Major League Trading and I said, tell me why I shouldn't take this. And he had the same problem. He goes, Bryan, it meets all your rules. He goes, it's going sideways. There's no news for the rest of the week because it's a big holiday for Japan. You have a huge range. It's bounced in there twice. He's a big support and resistance trader. He's like, you got support and resistance on your side. He goes, I'm going to take it too. So we ended up taking this trade. And again, we got 32 on the top side, which is better than the 25, right? I mean, that's extra 6. I love that. The 72 is a little bit off, but overall, the profit goal of 60 to risk 40, not a bad trade, right? 200-point range. So things were ticking by, and we got to Wednesday evening, and we only had 1 trading day left. And that's where this kind of picture was taken. At this point, I'm saying everything looks good. There's still no news. They got 1 day. It's the day right before the holiday. It started to get a little bit close, but again, I was expecting it to pop back up again. I was excited, right? I was like, okay, maybe this does work. This is a viable strategy long term, right? I'm going to start placing these every week. Well, I don't know if you guys remember this time back in, this area. Do you remember when the guy in North Korea decided to start shooting missiles for the first time? There's absolutely no way that I could predict that he's going to start shooting missiles over Japan, but that's what happened. The day before their holiday, he decided to test a missile, and the price dropped. So, did I lose on the trade? Yeah, I lost. I'm fully willing to admit that. There's no way to predict that. It happened. When price got down, I could have closed my position right here, and I don't know if you guys can see my mouse or not. If you can, when price crossed this yellow line, I could have gotten out of the trade. You could have got out of this with actually basically a break-even trade. Okay, that was possible on this one. But what I will point out is, if you look at it, when price dropped down because of the the missiles flying over the water, what did price do again? It reacted, and then it did what? It went sideways again inside of that gray box. It did absolutely nothing. So it's one of those things. Did it work for me? No, it didn't. Did you lose money on the trade? Yes, you could have lost money on this trade. Even though I could have got it out at 0, I like using this as an example because minus the big news spike, which I told you guys, watch out for news, this would have been fine. Okay, if you remove the big red candle, once again, it would have expired in the money for the full profit. Okay, so I love using this example. It's great. It was one of the many reasons why I do love Nadex, because I had no idea that this Japanese news release or this news holiday was even coming up, and it presented a great opportunity for me, and it's one of those things that I'm grateful for. And now I look at that pop-up message all the time for more trading opportunities. So you guys can kind of see how it unfolds that way, right? All right, let me bring that cursor back over. All right, so that's kind of the lunchtime trader, the no news. Now, I believe that is a good transition into what a news trader is. So there are two types of outcomes to every news trade. You're either going to get the expected, saying, I expect there to be, I don't know, unemployment number of 250, right? If it comes in exactly at 250, is that going to move the market? No. Now, if they expect 250 and it's minus 130,000, is the market going to move? Yes. Yes. If you expect no interest rate change to happen, and surprise, they raise interest rates by 0.25, does the market move? Yes. Okay. That's what Nadex news traders are. Now, one of the reasons why Nadex news trading is so much fun is because Nadex is really the only product out there that gives you very, very minor risk going in, depending on which strike you're picking. Okay. And again, remember, it's your maximum risk. It's not a stop loss. It's the way that the binary options contracts are designed. Okay. Now, the most popular news times are 4:30 a.m., 8 to 10:30 a.m., 2 p.m. Again, that's your FOMC and the president speaking, and then 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Now, everybody says 9:30 p.m. Eastern. What are you talking about? Well, 9:30 p.m. Eastern here is typically your Japanese and Australian news in the morning. It's morning them. It's nighttime for us. 4:30 in the morning is Europe. It's Great Britain and the Euro. Okay, even Germany. So those are great times to trade news. Again, more currency trading than anything else. But again, that's the news aspect of it. Now the goal is, again, there's so many different news releases every week. There's a number of different websites, that can help you with that, to find when the news releases are. And then again, you got to break it down for I'm not. One thing that I want to point out, like I said, I don't have time to go fully through this section, but I want you guys to grasp the concept of it. I'm not trying to predict whether it's going to be expected or not expected. I'm positioning myself to take advantage of what the trade is. Okay, there's a little bit more risk involved in these trades, but like I said, because of the way the Nadex contracts are designed, I'm a very big proponent of a Nadex, becoming a Nadex news trader. This is what a news trade looks like. Okay, there's typically higher volatility. Okay, there's higher premiums inside of strikes. Sometimes there's price explosions. Okay, I've done some research into how often that occurs, and that's something that we really focus on. What releases are good, what releases are bad at Major League Trading. But because of the limited risk, Nadex is one of the best opportunities to become a news trader, better than any other asset class that I know of. Okay. Now, they do not work all the time. Actually, today was an example where there was a big miss in oil, but oil moved 25 cents when it typically will move 75 to $1. Okay. Typically, oil inventory, FOMC notes, especially non-farm payroll, but like even natural gas, currency interest rates are another big one. But typically, there's 15 to 20 of these major market movers every week. Here's an example where I got, these are the final payouts. $84 was on a spread. It's $84 profit. I got into that one, I believe, for like $11 or $12. You can see the spike. If you look at the middle chart, see how it spiked? I mean, it went up, what, 10 cents, which is kind of a huge move. Like I said, it was a really nice move, but made $84 in that one. They made $100 on the other payout. And again, like I said, if you see where price is before that release, it's down at 288. And if you look at the binary spread, or I'm sorry, the binary option on the right-hand side, I use a 292. Basically like 2/3 of the way up that big green candle. Could I predict that? No, but was it a very low entry? Of course it was. Look how far away it was. And again, there was a miss, huge spike in price. So again, this is kind of one, I'm not trying to teach you how to do this one. I'm just trying to show you this is what a new setup looks like. A lot of people get really attracted to the binary sides. I always tell people, focus on the spreads too. I'm one of the, I really, really like the spread side of this, the way that they do it. It still has limited risk in the way you establish the trades, but there's some really good movement over there. I mean, this one I actually made more actually on the spread than the binary. Again, with a very, very low entry, limited risk, as well. So that's the example of the news breakout. Here's two more. Here's the natural gas one. You can see what the actual miss looked like. If you look at the bottom left, that's the news, and I just use Forex Factory for that one. The forecast was 38B, and the actual was 28. So they missed it by about 10, and that's what shot that up. On the right-hand side, this would have been GDP in the Canadian dollar. So you'll notice this one in 15 minutes, it dropped 100 pips. 100 pips is a big move for the Canadian dollar. Really for any currency. I mean, 100 pips a day, you're doing quite well if you're trading standards and things, which again, as your account size grows, you can take on more contracts. But I mean, the forecast was a 0.2 and the actual came in as 0.6. Would you have needed to stay in that trade all day? No. Had you played that one with a spread, like I said, I want to make sure that we cover all risk of things here. Had you put a spread to the downside, right? Say you put, say you had risk of, and again, this is just hypothetical numbers. I want you guys to grasp kind of the potential of this. If you put a spread down, say you sold the 125.50 spread and say it cost you $30, right? The maximum money that you can lose on that thing is $30, right? Because, you sold it with Nadex. It went down 100, right? So you just made $70 on 30 risk. Is that a good trade? Absolutely. Okay. And that happened. And with a spread, you close it anytime that you want. You just, basically tripled your money or doubled your money in 15 minutes. Okay. That's why news trading to me is so exciting. News trading is not for everybody, but, once you understand the rules of what can happen and how it happens and what the risk is, those are the type of potential that you have. Can you lose it too? Sure. But at least you have that limited risk going into it. All right. So overnight trading. I haven't got a chance to answer too many questions yet, but I want to cover this last little bit. Nadex overnight trading it's kind of interesting. The more I started looking at the charts and understanding this, I realized that the markets don't stop moving ever. Being a currencies trader, I understood that, but really after 5 or 6 o'clock, I never paid any attention to ES or NQ. I just ignored them, right? Well, when I went back and was kind of looking at this, I started looking at charts more, and what I realized was there's actually movement overnight, okay? This chart on the right is the ES, and it moved 12.75 overnight. So basically 12 points, okay? You guys can see the time on that one, from 6 p.m. to 9:25 a.m. And when I saw that, I said, let me go back and research this some more. Typically, overnight trading are a little bit less risky just due to the fact that institutions are closed. I mean, there are algorithms that they're still running, but you don't have any floor traders. The big banks are not trading. You'll see that volumes basically shrivel up to nothing overnight, but price still moves. Well, guess what? You can take advantage of these things. There's lower premium in these type trades because, again, there's, it's overnight. There's no news or, good opportunities, right? But if you can grab 12 points overnight, you're doing quite well for yourself. You can do these with spreads or you can use binaries. Me particularly, I like the spreads overnight. And you can use a couple different expirations. But again, with binaries, it's 6 and 1/2 dozen the other. Figure out which one that you like. But this was an uptrend. I saw it. It was breaking previous highs. You were able to get in, take some points out of it, wake up in green. Okay, it's one of the things that I talk to our traders a lot. It's like, the best type of trading is the type of trading where you wake up in the morning and your account's already in the green without you doing anything. That's what overnight trend trading is. So for anyone that's new, or even tonight, I don't care how great you guys are, go look at the charts tonight before you go to bed. 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock tonight, go look at the charts, open up your platform, and go look to see what the strikes are. See what different things, see what the prices are, and you guys will start, kind of uncovering some hidden gems that happen every evening. If you're not familiar with the currencies, great. Go look at the currencies overnight. This is a great way to kind of get introduced to it with this overnight trend trading. And again, if there's no trend, don't trade, obviously, okay? There will not be trends every night. There probably won't be tonight because of kind of the funkiness of the market today. I don't know if it's the cold or what it is, but see what you can find. Again, if you're in demo mode, there's really no loss, okay? But that's one of the trends. This is the type of trading, too, that I do every single night before I go to bed, regardless. It doesn't matter where I'm at, what I'm doing. I always make sure that I spend at least 15 minutes a night doing this, all right? So here's an example of a trade. You can see how much did price move? Well, if you look at the bottom left, literally price went from 5,900 to 5,907.5. So this was a spread, $75 profit, okay? I used a working order, another nice thing that Nadex lets you do. I basically placed the trade. Worst case scenario, it cost me 25 bucks. I set my target for 75 ticks, so I was basically risking 1 to 3, risking $1 to make $3. And what happened when I woke up in the morning? As you guys can see, match things up. Look at the price on there. It's one of those things. I love these type of trades. There's nothing more that I could say. Some of the best trading that exists when you wake up in the morning and your account's green. All right. But that's what a live example looks like, guys. All right, for the overnight trend trader. So look at this, map it out, and that's what I did. 19 points, 38 points, 53 points, 23 points. There's plenty of movement. You just have to take advantage of it with the right product. So this was one of the alert trades I sent out. It's kind of a similar thing. You'll notice this was an overnight trade. Another example of waking up in the green. I took advantage of, again, another spread, okay? I sold it right before I went to sleep at about 9:15. Do I have the time in this one? I can't see the time. You can see basically where it got filled. Basically, the full profit target, it was $16 risk, and the full profit target hit at 5 a.m. in the morning. I was not awake at 5 a.m. in the morning. I did get the lovely email that says I've been cashed out for my full profit. I risked 16 to make 50. I mean, it's pretty good odds, right? Just about 3 to 1 on that one as well. And again, that's a way to take advantage of things overnight. Obviously, I used a little bit more analysis. I predicted it would go down. Don't go on and just start placing trades left and right all over the place without any analysis or any training. When you start placing trades without any training, guys, that's where you start losing money. Like I said, there was risk in this trade. It was limited to $16. It actually, after this, price actually turned and went up. Don't get too greedy as well. I actually ended up taking myself out almost exactly at the bottom. Well, the platform did. It was a working order, okay? If you guys don't know what working orders is, jump onto that Nadex website and go to the how-to section. There's some amazing videos up there to teach you guys how to use those. So as far as next steps, guys, I'm assuming if you're on this list, you probably already have a Nadex demo account. But if you don't have one, go get one. Even if you have a live one, get your demo credentials and go open one up. Get in there and go practice some of what I talked about today. I don't expect you to be a master, and you should not expect to be a master of what we covered. Like I said, play around with the news trading. Basically install some type of charting software. Nadex has charting within theirs. If you feel like using something else, go ahead. I use different things because I have different accounts in different places as well. There's no, whatever your personal preference is. I use one for currencies and I use a different one for futures. If you like what we have here or you want to get more information, please go to our social media pages. You could find Major League Trading. Probably the two easiest is Instagram. You can always go to majorleaguetrading.com, but Instagram and YouTube are our two biggest areas. If you guys like crypto right now, our Major League Crypto site, they're doing live broadcasts every Wednesday that are kind of taking off. You can get more information on everything that we do there. You can contact us through there as well. All right. So let me cover a couple questions real quick. I think I have 3-4 minutes left. Ernest, I do overnight. Let me see here. Oops, hold on. I just went right to the top. Do you show how to use technical indicators? Hey, Ray, the funny thing is I don't actually use any technical indicators. Most technical indicators are lagging. You can. I mean, there are some that people use for confirmation, but what I found is I'm very much a kind of price action person. And I find that technical indicators, if I know that you're using a technical indicator, it's much easier for me to take money from you. When you're following price action, you can kind of see what the big boys in the market are doing. You can see where the big price moves are. Like I said, I'm a keep it simple kind of guy. And I feel that when you start using too many indicators is where you really make things complicated and mess yourself up. Let me see what else we got here. If they do not take a position, how's liquidity? Greg, actually liquidity is good. I've never had an issue with liquidity for any Nadex trade yet. At nighttime, typically like in the futures, the spreads kind of widen, even in currencies. I mean, currencies have more natural liquidity. The only time currencies have ever had liquidity issues is with the Swiss, and that caused all kinds of major problems. But I've never had any issues whatsoever with Nadex liquidity. You buy the same amount? Yes, I answered that one. Kenji, yes, you can definitely try these out with a $250 real account. And like I said, when you get better with that, does it work with spreads? Yep, Ernest, it works with spreads. I just showed you a couple of those. How do I get? Sherry, it's very easy to close it early. Just click on the position you have. Is the volume at the bottom? Sherry, actually, I believe in Nadex, I believe that's actually an option. But Nadex is a section on charting on their website. I was actually building a webinar for them to go over charting, but I believe it's on their website right now. So I think it's something that you add, but yes, it will show up at the bottom. Are there any trades with risk in Nadex? Every trade with Nadex has risk in it. I've been trading FX, Petro, Crescent. Yeah, you can trade Bitcoin now. They have Bitcoin spreads currently right now. I don't trade them yet, but I kind of know what's coming for them. And what I would say is, if you like them, stay in touch because they have a lot of really cool things coming up for them. Could you recommend charting software? Ernest, I can't really recommend. I can tell you what I use. I've used a lot of the big things out there. I use FXCM right now currently for charting. They do not allow US clients to have live accounts, but because I was one of their clients, I do have live access still. It's just very easy to manipulate, but it's not that it's better or worse than anything else. I've used TradeStation. That's another big one. I've used Thinkorswim. Major League Trading uses Thinkorswim, but like I said, you can just use Nadexes as well. It's already included with what you have. You don't have to do anything crazy for it. And like I said, focus on what you see, not what you feel. Rose, I just covered that as well. Been trying forex spreads. Yeah, Bob, you have to get the right one, and that's really the key. There are a lot of things that I would like to trade, but when the spreads or the price doesn't match up for some reason, you just don't trade it. There's other opportunities out there. You should never feel forced to be placed, to place a trade. Some people do too much analysis and that paralyzes them. And then there's the other side of the coin where people force things. If there's too much risk or it looks like there's too much risk, don't take it. Go for small things. My overnight spreads, I tend to do things that are a little bit out of the money. That's what works best for me. Is that a lower percentage? Sure. But, I'm confident in my analysis, and that's something that you'll get in time as well. Prince Laugh. They're all limited. Yeah, Sherry, everything's limited risk at Nadex because your maximum risk is given to you when you go into it. It's just the nature of the form of contract. It's really why I think that everybody should learn how to trade these. Just because, again, there's no other product. Regular options have it as well too, but if you sell some of those regular options, you can get into some trouble because they actually, there are situations where they have unlimited risk. Nadex, there's no such thing as, it's always limited no matter what. There's no way to mess it up. It's always limited risk. How do I describe it? Ken, you just go ahead and find us on go to social media and you'll be able to find us. All right, guys, with that being said, it is now 5:01. I'm sorry I kept you a minute. I do talk fast. Ernest, I love the keep it simple mentality. I really appreciate everybody coming in. Like I said, sorry I had to go fast. Wish you guys a good evening. Stay warm if you're on the East Coast like me. We had this polar, whatever this thing is, coming in here. But I will see you guys on social media, and I appreciate your attendance tonight. So thank you so much, and have a good evening.